to a third show of Friday Night Live. Starting off with some good old technical difficulties here. So as you guys have seen on our previous show, cringe is a great part of it, but you know, we try to minimize it. I don't know, they don't really reach conclusions like today's one, interracial marriages, or some would call them intercultural. We're going to get to what's the difference between that and that. So for today, we have our three guests in the studio. We have Blessy, Amna, and Yara, and I'd like the three of you to just give a brief intro. So I'll start with you, Blessy, on my right. Go ahead.
Yeah, as he said, my name is Blessy. I'm coming from India, and I am here in HS department doing communication, specialization in public relations.
We have a fellow HS here.
Yeah.
So, anything else you'd like to add about yourself?
Okay, well, that's pretty much.
How about your stance on interracial marriage?
Well, I'm against it.
Alright, so we are going to go to our next guest here. We have Amna. Go ahead.
My name, yeah. I'm Amna. I am from Japan, but I'm mixed Pakistani. So I'm a product of interracial marriage.
Cool.
I am from the Kunia of Education. I am majoring in TESOL. And obviously I'll be talking for interracial marriage because it would be really hypocritical of me to talk against it.
It would be kind of strange, I have to say. And then we have on my left side we have Yara.
Hey guys,
Hey, Yara.
I'm Yara and I graduated from engineering from UIA. Yay!
Yay.
And did I say I'm from Egypt?
You just did.
Well, I'm Egyptian. My mom and dad are Egyptians, and I lived my whole life in Malaysia, almost my whole life. And I'm for interracial marriages, depending on the situation.
Okay.
Oh, wow, that's with a condition.
Okay.
All right then. Okay, so we have four. We have against, for, and for depending.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, we'd like to find out what that means as we move on with the show. So I'll come to you, Yara, first. I'd like you to tell us what is interracial marriage.
Alright, so you said in the beginning interracial marriages or intercultural marriages, and they're kind of different. They're not the same thing.
Okay,
so
how would they be
interracial
different?
marriages is basically marriage from different races.
Okay.
So let's say a Malaysian, one is Malay and the other is Chinese Malaysian,
Okay.
and they get married.
All right.
They're both Malaysian, but they're interracially married to each other because they're from different race.
Okay.
However, intercultural marriages is like if an Arab marries a Desi.
Okay.
Now, two different cultures, you know, colliding. And
Wow.
that's intercultural marriages. So, like Amna, she said she's from half Pakistani, half Japanese. That's intercultural marriage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, like you've said, you're for, but depending on the situation, I'd like to know, why are you for interracial marriages?
Just for why for?
Yeah, why for first?
Okay, I think. Okay, well, if we look at it from an Islamic perspective,
Okay.
you know, the Prophet said that if someone comes asking for your daughter's hand, you have to look into his religion and character.
All right.
If he's religiously, you know, like he follows Islam in an acceptable manner, and his character, he's of like a good character, then these are the two criteria you have to check. And if they're both are really good, and you say no, then I don't remember the hadith word by word, but it means like what is it? Fasad, like
You've caused a great
Corruption.
in on earth. Because why would you reject someone if he's like he follows Islam and he's of good character? So it was never said look at his race or look at his color. So that's why I'm for it. Why should we not go for intercultural marriages?
Okay, interesting. Amna, do you have any other reasons that you'd like to add on why you're for?
Firstly, like I mentioned earlier, I am kind of I am a
Okay,
product
yeah.
of interracial marriage, so you know hypocritical of me to say that I'm against it, because my parents are both from different races, different countries, different cultures, different everything.
That's true. Right.
Secondly, like Yara said, you know, she narrated a hadith where she said that, I mean, okay. Okay, anyway,
okay.
so it is kind of like encouraged in Islam, interracial marriages, because, you know, there is also, besides the hadith, there's a verse in the Quran where Allah says that we created you so that you may, like, different races and tribes, so that you may get to know each other. So he didn't say like Arabs get to know Arabs. He said you, all of us as human beings, get to know each other. So even from, if you look at it from an Islamic perspective, it is encouraged, so why not?
Oh, now this is going to be interesting, because I'd like to, because they've got the Islamic perspective on their side, so there's
Bring it on,
so,
sister.
So Blessy, I'd like to know why you're against it.
Okay, so as I've already mentioned, I come from India.
Okay.
This is a place where more than a guy and a girl gets married, their family gets married. You get it?
That's
The
true.
culture, the values, and everything. And from my own personal experience and everything,
Okay.
I found it really, you know, it's really a hassle for parents to adjust each other. I don't understand the point too, because they find it like, if it's different culture, it's not easy to accept. Because being a girl, I'm a person who needs to go to the guy's family, so I have to get adjusted to their culture. When parents itself are not ready to adjust themselves, so this is a hard task for us, especially Indians, I could say, having a big trouble. Like, I'm from south of India. Okay. My place itself, my regions of, you know, into 14 districts.
Okay.
And each district itself are not ready to marry each other.
Wow.
From my own state.
Damn.
Saying they have cultural different, being within the same country, same state, still they do have different cultures. So that is a huge problem.
Okay, I'd like you to give an example of how a problem from it being just from different parts of India could be problematic to the families.
Okay, especially I can say of my place, right?
Okay.
So here, one easy example I could say is I come from Calicut.
Okay.
Have you heard of Calicut?
I've heard of Calcutta.
Okay. This is Kerala actually. Have you heard of
Okay.
Kerala at least?
I might have heard of Kerala. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that place, that state is divided into 14. So the north and the south has a lot of difference.
Okay.
The way they live, the culture, and everything. So for instance, the north people of Kerala, most of the guys stay in the girl's family. Just few, really few. So it's
I'd like to clarify. What do you mean by stay in the girl's family?
okay. Usually, when you marry, you take her home with you.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Here, the girl takes you home.
Oh wow.
Girl power.
So, yeah.
Amazing.
Feminism to a whole new level.
Sometimes I wish I'm from that part of India.
Well, I think a lot of Arabs could agree with you there. they'd like to try that out.
Yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
that's different.
Okay.
And so if I am somewhere in the middle, if I get to marry someone from that place, I can't go to that. You get it? Like, that guy should be coming to my place, which is
Okay.
a whole hassle. Like, they don't want to leave their son from their region to go to some other region.
That is
So there's a lot of
extremely. I have to
problems.
say, like, from a guy's perspective,
Yeah.
this is kind of strange, because it's usually like the family doesn't want the girl to go to some place
True,
they
yes.
unfamiliar with, but then they don't want the guy to go to some place they're unfamiliar with.
Yeah. They don't want to leave their daughter. They love their daughter, so yeah, they want the guy to come to the family, not the girl going.
And then the guy's family loved their son. You're not allowed to go anywhere.
This is very interesting, I have to say. Okay, I also want to ask you guys. You guys, since you said you're 4, right? So, what are the complications that could happen by two couples, from different cultures getting married? Either one of you can answer.
I would say due to cultural differences, there could be misunderstandings, like miscommunication, because a certain thing could mean something else in one culture, and it could mean a completely different thing in a different culture,
Like,
You know what I mean? Like what?
Has there ever been a situation that you experienced or heard of?
Like, okay, let's say the way we talk
Okay.
in let's say Pakistan, India, it's very normal to talk in a very, like, you can raise your voice, to people when you're talking. But to a Japanese, if you talk in a high tone, it's considered very rude. So something that could be normal to, let's say, my dad, my mom would find it really rude. So that could be a miscommunication there, like misunderstanding.
True. So I want to ask you, coming from an intercultural family, how does it feel being the product of such a marriage? Do you feel like you don't fit in with one culture or the other? Like, is it difficult for you?
For me personally, because I lived most of my life, I would say, in Pakistan, or I kind of grew up there, so I adapted to their culture more than the Japanese culture.
Okay.
So it's very easy for me to like fit in the Desi culture than the Japanese culture. But then open to both. That's the thing about being a product of interracial marriage, because you get to experience both cultures, and you get to like learn from both cultures, and you get to be open-minded and accepting of other cultures as well.
That's true, but what I hear, from Japanese culture, they're very homogenous. They're not really for intercultural marriage and intermixing. So when you go back there, how is it? Do you feel like you get any unwanted looks or?
Yes, definitely. Me being like half Japanese, half Pakistani, plus being a Muslim who wears a hijab, and goes around, I do get looks and stuff. But the thing is, in Japan, people really they don't necessarily comment or show negative feelings or attitude towards anybody.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm really glad.
That's actually good for you, because we all heard the sad news that's happened in New Zealand. So
it's very sad. Very sad.
It's a good thing that in Japan they're much more understanding. There's another question I'd want to ask. In terms of you guys, still the question is for you guys. From your friends, you guys definitely know people who have married from inter
Sure.
Yes, definitely. So I don't know if you know them on a personal level, but what are the problems that they have faced, and how did they overcome it?
I feel like one of the problems is what Blessy have discussed, which is family coming together. Because I don't think it's just a problem in India. I feel like even in the Arab world, we marry families. Like, I'm married to his family is married to my family. So this is one of the problems, and that's why I said I'm for it, depending on the situation. So
for you, I know specifically that your mom is extremely against it. And I've had discussions with your mom as well on this topic.
My mom is extremely against it.
Okay.
Also, depending on the situation. But she doesn't say that explicitly.
Well, from what I've discussed with her, she seems like it's like a big no-no.
Yes, because of a situation.
Well,
because of a situation.
Like, what situation would that be?
Alright, so, okay. So, let me just explain something first. I feel like we, you and I, or I think most of us are third cultured. Where I'm not 100% Arab, and so I wouldn't say my culture is my I'm talking about Yara. I didn't adopt only the Arab culture.
Okay.
I'm a mixture of all cultures, right? So if I were to marry someone who's Malaysian, for example, and I have lived here almost my whole life, so I understand the culture. I get to I know how they live their lives. However, for him, he will get a culture shock because he has lived his whole life in Malaysia. So in order for intercultural marriage to work out, I think one of the most important things is that both of them are third cultured, or they are willing to be open about other the other person's culture. It's not like my culture, my way.
Okay, that's actually a very good point that we might like. I think we touched on this point in our last live broadcast, which was actually culture shock. So, anyways, I also want to ask Blessy this question. Like you said, like the problems, like are one of the problems is what's it called, culture shock and whatnot. Okay, from like your parents' point of view, okay, would they be willing, like, let's say you were in a situation, even though you're against, that there is someone who is not of Indian culture, and then you come forth to your parents, what would their reaction be? Like, how would they deal with it? And
well, maybe for my parents they might agree, but there are grandparents. Okay,
Wow,
that's the hugest
really?
part. Yes.
I actually heard this point from a friend of mine. It's like it's usually when I was asking for guests for the show, for either for or sorry, when I was asking for the guests, when they were said against, it was like my grandmother's like, wow, I didn't know
like
you're.
every grandmother, to be honest.
That part I find it very strange, because usually it's the mother and father's say, but then the grandmother comes into the equation.
Yes,
so
they are.
that's actually really interesting. And why would she be against it? Like, just because the way they were raised since they were kids?
Yes, exactly. Because at least our parents would, they had a situation. Like, I actually lived in Saudi Arabia all this while. So it's not that I am pure Indian. I mean, I am Indian, but the cultures, I get mixed. So it's fine for my parents also
like
to
all of us
adjust.
here in the studio. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
So, but for grandparents, it's not the same way. And for them, okay, I'm the first and only girl, granddaughter, so they're expecting that they need to talk to their granddaughter's husband very comfortably, okay? So if it's from a very different place, they don't have another source to talk. The language would be different. You get it?
A language barrier.
Yeah, that's the great thing. So they can't show their affection, and they'll be like, they'll have a lot of problem for us to welcome him home. That's one thing.
Like, for me, I would think like to be honest, I'm neither for or against, but I'm probably more like I'm leaning more to for. Like I'm okay with it. Like one of the biggest I think issues that could happen during marriage for like between different cultures is the
Language barrier.
No, not even the language. That's like you can overcome that easily. The biggest problem I think would be the marriage preparations, الاتفاقات, as we call them.
The agreements?
The agreements, exactly. The agreements.
Like the dowry.
Exactly,
and all,
the dowry, who gets the what, basically.
Yeah.
Like in Egypt, we have...
They know in Egypt.
Yeah. In Egypt, of course, the guy is the one that gets the dowry and everything. And he has to, like, well, nowadays he has to get, like, the flat, the
Cars and everything.
card, and fill the house
Furniture.
with furniture and all of that. Exactly.
The gold too.
Yeah, but then in India, I hear that it's the opposite way around, which is actually really interesting. And like, have you ever seen a marriage like that happen here in here in Malaysia or in India, where it was Indian and Arab? Like, I want more specific. Like, I want more specific about Indians and Arabs. Why? Because it's actually the opposite. Exactly. So have you ever encountered this or heard about it?
I never encountered, but I might encounter in the future because I have friends here.
That's true.
Yeah.
How about you guys? Have you guys heard of this combination?
Arab Indian?
Yes.
Married. Arab Indian.
Married. Or soon to be married with
Arab
complicated.
Indian.
No, actually, I haven't. That's very interesting. Like, I know
Indian,
Arab and Asians.
Okay,
but
that's actually like similar. Like with the agreements there, I can feel like there might be a problem.
Weird combination, because I cannot imagine an Arab
And an Indian.
and a Desi. Yeah.
Or a Desi, yeah. Actually, to be like now that we're talking about it, I don't, like from all the intercultural or interracial marriages I've seen, I don't think
I think
come
if I
across
They
this.
see the Arab.
it's like if
don't work.
I encounter a couple and they see an Arab couple, I think I'll change my mind about being for
Wow.
interracial marriage.
Wow, why is that? I'd like to know.
Because I feel like the cultures are very different,
Hmm.
and I don't know. It's just a weird combination. I don't have a
No
logical
offense to any.
explanation. No offense,
to
guys.
anyone out there.
Wait, I know one.
You do.
Who?
Okay, so this is where it depends. I don't know them personally.
Okay.
But do you know Tokyo and
But I
Said-
know. I was
wait.
gonna mention them, but they're like not.
See, this is what I
here,
mean.
here.
Like an Egyptian and a Pakistani. However, both of them were they were raised and lived their whole life in the UK. So
basically,
so
like
they're
the big
descendants of
okay.
immigrants.
yeah, but however,
Okay.
his family
What?
his
Sorry
family
about
is
that.
so desi. His family is so desi, and her family, her dad's side, they're so Egyptian. However, like how they chose to live their life is very interesting. It's just both of them.
Hmm.
You know,
Well-
their problems, they deal with it together. Everything. It was so hard for the guy to convince her dad. Like it took him like 5 years, but dude, he made it.
Wow, 5 years.
5
That's a
years.
lot of commitment.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was
that's-
really committed.
that
And,
is-
but no, they're so
he
happy
deserves a
together.
clap, I
They're so
swear.
happy together. Yeah.
I'm
So
glad.
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Like intercultural marriage is very interesting, depending on the mindset of the individuals.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go for a quick 5-minute breaks, and during this 5-minute break, I would like you guys to, whoever's watching, I'd like you to send me your questions on Instagram or on WhatsApp, or you can send it to one of the guests here, either Blessy, Amna, or Yara. Just send it to them personally, and then they'll relay it to me, and then we can discuss this question in our next talking point. So we're going to go for that quick 5-minute breaks, and we will be back in 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. We are back with the second segment of today's show, and our topic for today, as we have discussed earlier, is interracial marriages, or intercultural, as we have discussed was the difference between them before.
We're still discussing.
Apparently, yes,
Yeah.
we were still discussing in the break. Why would it be considered different? I'm actually already convinced, but Amna's not exactly convinced.
Yeah.
Why aren't you convinced, Amna?
Because you see, she said that I would be considered my parents' marriage would be considered intercultural because they're from different cultures, like Japanese, Pakistani.
Mhm.
But then they're also different
Different
races.
races.
So I would call them an interracial couple rather than an intercultural.
That's true, actually.
I would say like a
Never mind.
Pakistani.
I'm not convinced
I don't know.
anymore. Yeah.
No, I mean like the words could be used synonymously.
Like I would say,
Okay.
but then
an intercultural would be, let's say, an Arab. Like I said, Egyptian. Tell me a culture that's different. Iraqi. I don't know. My culture would be different. Like you're the same race, but your cultures are different.
Moroccan.
That I would say is an intercultural
Moroccans are
marriage or a couple or anything, a relationship basically.
Hmm.
You know?
Okay. She has a point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we have to research more about it.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
true.
One is
yeah.
right.
All right. So one of the things we want to speak about, even though you're against it, I still want you to think of what are the pros of intercultural marriage or interracial.
Okay. As they have said,
Like pros and cons. I don't mind like even if you add your cons, but pros and cons.
well, obviously getting to know new culture and then adjusting, because that could appreciate even if we take the Arab Desi marriage, the culture is totally different. So if I could accommodate to their culture, it means they should actually appreciate and welcome me. They should actually be proud of me because I was
True.
actually able to change my whole culture, live my own culture back behind, and then come for mine.
You don't necessarily have to leave your own
But that's
culture.
how, if I am going to a guy's place, because
Well,
maybe they are not ready to accept my culture.
Well, the thing is, I was watching this show yesterday called Modern Family. I don't know if you guys know.
Yeah.
So the guy is married to this. He's American and he's married to the Latino wife,
Yeah.
and then they were celebrating Christmas, and then the kid was arguing how in Colombia they were celebrate Christmas in a different way, and then the guy because he's American, he was like this is how we celebrate it here in U.S. and this isn't Colombia, but then his wife was like saying how he needs to adapt and take in a new culture and change and stuff like that. So you don't necessarily have to let go of your culture if you marry someone who's of a different culture. You guys, it can be a new set of culture.
Yes,
Yes,
this is
exactly.
the good. This is
Exactly.
Like a
that's why it's
combination,
such an
right?
amazing
Exactly.
thing. Yeah, it's like you make your own culture now.
Like like Yara, I don't consider myself either Malaysian or just Egyptian. Like it's a mixture of both. Like I like to think that I take the best of both and I leave the bad,
Exactly, yeah.
but that's completely not true.
I agree with that though.
But yeah, like you don't necessarily. The point is, you don't necessarily have to leave your own culture behind when you get married to a different, to a person of a different culture.
Yeah,
I know,
exactly.
but that's not among us. It should again go back to our parents.
Grandparents.
Yeah, grandparents too,
Grandparents,
because
okay.
if we both love each other,
Mhm.
irrespective of the caste and everything,
Yes, this
we
is-
can just be together, even being different culture. That's not the main thing.
True.
This is
Okay.
But
the
it's
main
all
thing, love.
for the parents.
Love is the
But
key.
then, no.
Love is the key. I agree with
Yara is
that.
going on
I
sentimental.
don't agree because, okay, the love is there, but then
Yeah.
there will be misunderstandings because there's two people
It's
raised
true.
differently. They come from different backgrounds.
That's true.
There will definitely be misunderstandings. They
Yeah.
just have to be understanding to each other's differences.
But then, can I add something?
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
realistically,
No, I feel like even if I marry an Egyptian,
Mhm.
there will still be misunderstandings because we grew up in different
Okay.
families. Every family has their own set of
Remember,
rules that they
remember
follow.
how I said we don't exactly. 1 second. What? It's frozen. It's frozen. Probably due to the internet. I told you guys we're gonna have a wonderful time with the technical difficulties. We're
But
having some issues right now
I
with the
can see
internet,
myself
and my
move.
feed is frozen. So hopefully it'll come back soon. Sorry, Yara, to interrupt. Go ahead. What were you
was I
saying?
About Egyptian.
Egyptian, yeah.
Exactly. Like a lot of people in Egypt, they get divorced in their first year because they can't accept each other's differences. Like he
That's
lived in his
actually-
family's house, doing his own, living his life his own way, and she lived in her family's house, living her life in her own way. And now these two people are forced to live, to just kind of put their habits together
Mhm.
and live together, and it's like, what the hell, I don't want to do this anymore. So it doesn't matter if they're from different race. This problem actually anyone who gets married faces it, the whole that you are different from me and I have to live with you. It's not like it's a housemate, it's a partner, and you kind of have to adapt with each other to live together.
That's true, actually. Like, I think this is especially true in our case. Like, for you, and for you as well. You haven't lived in India for most of your life, right? Like, I guess it applies for most of us here, or all of us actually. Like, when if someone from our country comes, or like for you guys at least, comes and proposes to you, or I propose to someone from my country, it will still be a problem because we were born and raised, or for me at least, I'm born and raised here in Malaysia. It's not going to be smooth sailing. There is
Yes,
still going to be
that's true.
differences. In a way, it can be considered an intercultural marriage because the cultures are
Cultures are
different.
different.
Yes.
Yes, and you were saying that there's always going to be issues, like regardless of the relationship. Yeah, that's true, but it then comes down to compromise.
Exactly.
Who's
So
willing
you
to
have to
compromise?
compromise. It doesn't matter if you marry someone from your country or from a different race or a different culture. It's the idea of, are you willing to let go of some things, and is he willing to let go of certain habits to make this ship sail?
True.
Yeah.
And I think also one of the biggest problems that grandparents and parents is that they don't want to compromise as well. They don't want to let go of
Yeah.
their own beliefs,
They
I
want to
guess.
preserve their culture.
Yes, yes.
Except
that is
for my
actually-
grandma, she's a special case.
Yeah.
That's alhamdulillah.
Your grandma is is not against it, right?
No, okay. Here's the thing. My grandma's really old.
Mm-hmm.
She's 90 something. I just want to
Mashallah.
point that out because people might think she's a young woman. She's old, so she lived her whole life in Egypt. She never left Egypt. She never went outside. Never ever.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tell her, Tita, that's what I call her.
Mm-hmm.
Tita, this guy proposed and he's from a different country, blah blah blah. And she's like, so is he Muslim? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, do you like him? And I'm like, and she's like, if you like him and he's Muslim, then yes, go for it. That's the only two questions she asked. Is he Muslim? Do you like him?
I swear.
My mom.
Like how you phased into that.
Mama, la.
Mama, listen. What passport does he carry? Does he have a job? Does he this? Does he that? But Mama, listen. Is he Egyptian? No. End of discussion. Goodbye.
Wow. Yeah, I remember having the discussion with your mom and how Ahmed was extremely
Irritated.
yeah. It was interesting, I have to say, with your mom. But she, I don't know.
She has good points, though.
Yes, exactly.
She has good points.
when I was actually debating with her, she did have good points. Like, I'm going to have to talk about this point. It's a little bit difficult, but like one of the biggest problems about people being afraid of marriage here in Malaysia is, they get married to the girl, everything goes fine, then something happens, the guy has kids, the girl decides to take the kids and just goes.
Wow.
And leaving him kidless and marriageless and everything.
Or the other way around.
Or the other way around
Yeah.
if it's the guy, yeah. But this is, as we can see, is one of the cons, I guess, of intercultural in one specific culture.
It's not common in a specific culture.
I
though.
know someone, it happened to him twice.
From a Malaysian? Or?
Yes,
Oh.
he married a Malaysian
But then
twice,
it
and it
happened
happened twice.
But
To
it
the
also
same
happened
person.
Twice,
twice.
and
they're-
and the kids in both times were taken.
But then also it happened to a guy who was Arab and he married to some European and she took the kids. It's not a cultural thing. It's about the person. If how they end things, like, okay, these are your kids too, you can visit them, however I will raise them because like I'm the mother, or I can afford it if the guy wants to take them. It has to be agreements, but some people are just so stubborn and they
Yeah, it's exactly, there is no agreement, it's just like whoop,
yeah.
and
So
gone.
that's if a marriage failed badly, and it's just I don't think that's one of the good reasons for my mom, actually, because you said it's a good reason.
Really?
I don't think it's a good
I
reason.
think it's a really valid point. What if, like, put your brother in those shoes, I guess, yeah. What if it happens to him? It's not exactly a...
No, but then the question is, why is he getting married to someone?
He doesn't know. Like, when you marry someone, you're not thinking that, oh, this person, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life with
But
him.
you can see their character beforehand.
A lot of bad things are not seen in the person's character
Yeah.
before marriage.
They're seen. We choose to ignore them. They're always seen, Ahmed. I'm sure of this.
Amna,
Always. You just choose
Amna
to
and
ignore
Blessy
them.
disagree.
I disagree.
Mhm.
Because people, I personally believe that you don't know a person. You don't get to know a person unless you spend time and live with them.
Yeah.
actually.
They just
I
exhibit
really-
their
yeah.
best.
Because
they
when you're
can.
with them, you see them every day, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Because people show you what they want to show you, but then when you're forced to live with them,
That's true.
you get to see sides of them that you've never seen before,
That's
and
true.
you're just like,
Love is blind. Like, the
Yeah.
term exists for a reason.
This is the thing. Love is blind, meaning that it's there. You just don't want to see it. Because in Egypt, I'm gonna speak from an Egyptian perspective. We have 2 years. Sometimes the engagement lasts for 2 years, right? So they kind of see each other every day. Buying a house, getting furniture. They kind of start a life before actually starting a life. All right, and they get into fights, and a lot of things happen. But the girl, her family will be like, it's okay, he's just frustrated because, of all the preparations. She gets to see the true color. He gets to see the true color. But we choose to say, it's okay, after marriage it will be better. So it's bad, it's your choice, and you made a bad decision. But I mean, I'm just talking about like kind of Egyptian kind of way. Like if you get to know someone in 6 months and get married to them, then you would never know. That's true.
That's true. Okay. She has a
Yes,
point, I
it
have to
depends.
say.
And I mean, this whatever she addressed, whatever problems Yara addressed, I think it applies to any relationship. Like not any like any romantic relationship. It doesn't just apply to a certain race or certain culture. You know,
Yeah,
it
I
can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
it's true. We
That's-
just choose to.
And it's
Not
not
see it.
like specifically for an interracial relationship. Yeah.
All right, I have another question. Like, Blessy, you're still against, even though we've said some good points here, though. Like,
I
you
kind of
haven't
don't
changed
know
your.
who's against who right now. We're like everybody
We are-
is for and against each other.
We're talking about the pros and cons, I guess. So there's always going to, like, for every thing in the world, there's always going to be pros and cons. But so you haven't changed your mind, have you?
It's just for the family, you know.
But what do
That's
you
your.
personally believe?
No, obviously I'm not against it.
But if it wasn't for the
Personally.
family,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm not against it.
huh,
Because it's
interesting.
all between us.
Well, but then what? Okay, when you mean between us, you mean you and the partner.
Yes.
But when you get married, you're not just marrying the partner. Like
That's why when the family comes into the play, then the whole thing changes.
Hmm.
That's
That's-
what's happening everywhere.
Well, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I said this before. Like, to me, I'm neutral. Like, I'm not with it or against it. But I do feel like there are still valid points on either sides. One of them, like I said, is you can't really trust the person you're married. Like, if you're like, okay, your mom, Yara had another good point. If things, she did have some good points, I have to say. Okay, one of the good points was, like, if times get hard, and then he decides to, okay, let's go back. This "let's go back," where does it mean? Yeah, yeah. So you get what I'm saying? Are you sure?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a problem because if you're from two different countries and you're living, let's say, somewhere else, when you get married, where do you go?
Exactly. That's another thing. That's actually a
Yeah.
problem.
That's a problem.
That's a problem that's not only there with intercultural marriage. That's even there with
Yes.
people who from the same country. It's just
Different
they're living in
cities, right?
different
Cities.
cities,
Yeah.
exactly, in different countries.
Different towns,
yeah,
even.
exactly. Like, it's difficult to accept the change sometimes. I have to say.
I have to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Okay, we're here with our families. I mean, like, you are and I am, and I feel like home is not necessarily a place, but it's where you are. Like, it's with the people, you know.
Well, that's a good point right there.
Yes.
What if you're home with your people? His people are in one
No,
place. and
he's my people
Right.
now. I'm married to him, and
Well-
he's married to me. We have children. We are a family. I'm not talking just about me and a guy. We're gonna have kids, and these kids are ours, and we have our own kingdom, I would
Okay.
say. And
Let-
we're living together, so we get to choose
All right.
where to live, because that wherever we choose is
Okay.
gonna be home.
What if the person is, like, from a country that you don't want, like, you're okay with the country, but you don't want to go live there?
Yes.
What do you mean, yes?
Yes, it could happen.
You'd go still to
Who
the country.
said we're gonna go to his country? Who said we should
He
go
said.
to? Oh no! But then this is the thing. Before I get married to someone who's from a completely different country, a country that I know that I do not want to live in, not like from Canada or the UK. Let's say he's from a country I don't want to live in. Okay, and before we get married, I'm gonna, like, set it clear. Look, if things get hard, we're not going there. So we should have a plan B. So when things get hard, we go to that plan B. So we should work on, like, getting a better
Then life
passport,
happens.
better
But
visa.
then life happens, and then complications
But
happen.
life happens even if you marry someone from your country. Egypt could go to like something really bad, and we can go back to it.
Something, quote unquote, something really bad.
And we can go back to it. We can go back to Egypt. You know, it doesn't matter. Like, even if I marry an Egyptian, things will still go bad. Then what? You know.
That's true, I guess.
I think it's about trusting God's plan.
Wow. Okay. The thing is, once you put Islam into the perspective, is like with the start of the show, it becomes really difficult to be against.
But then, aren't we Muslims? Shouldn't we have that?
It's true. We can't, like, as Muslims. Yeah, we cannot take it out of the equation. I guess. Yeah,
exactly.
so, yeah, I guess if that's the case, then sure, we're going to, that means interracial marriages. Yay, bueno, all good.
But I said it depends on the situation.
I guess it depends. So the conclusion of this show is amazingly it depends. We were not able to convince people to be with it or against it. It's just like it depends, guys.
Well, I have something to say. I mean, I
Okay.
respect whatever Yara said, her
Okay.
opinion,
Okay.
but I feel like when it comes to marriage, you have to be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all about just ideas and
Mhm.
love and emotions, right?
Yeah.
Like,
True.
let's say what she said, okay, this is my husband, my family, my kids, this is our kingdom or home.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also come from somebody's kingdom that you
Mhm.
have to look back at, and the guy as well. So you
Mhm.
can't just be like, okay, now I'm married, I have kids, this is my kingdom. Like,
What about your family?
what
the one
about
you
exactly?
came
You
from?
know,
Mhm.
you have to like
It's a good point.
you have to be realistic.
So
That's my
the
So
end,
point.
you're
it's just
coming to my side.
No, but
So you don't have to like abandon your own
I know,
kingdom
that's the
or
thing.
house, but at the same time you cannot abandon like his values, principles, and he cannot like ask you to abandon your family, your values, your principles.
Mhm.
I don't think this is related because my
Uh-huh.
mom and dad,
Uh-huh.
Egyptians,
Mhm.
cousins,
Mhm.
they both came and lived here.
Mhm.
So does that mean they abandoned their family in Egypt?
Well,
They
To
saw
us,
an
we would-
opportunity
okay.
and they came
okay,
to it.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
from my perspective.
Yeah.
From our perspective, we don't think we abandoned. We just found a better situation for the family, and went there.
Yes,
To them, their family in Egypt, it might be something else.
Exactly.
but
And
then I feel
Because
like
I can tell you this from my personal perspective. Our uncles in Egypt do not take too well for the fact that we are here. They feel like we have abandoned them,
but then
even though we're just here because of a better opportunity, a better
Okay.
life. It's like
My
we don't want to
uncles-
be close to them. We don't want to be,
my uncles live in Egypt, right?
Mhm.
My family, they all live in Egypt. Okay, they meet in Eid and in special occasions, but they don't live together. Living together with your family is not really an option now. Like every family, I would say that every small family goes to a different city
See?
depending on the opportunities and situations.
the phrase. Sorry to interrupt, but like not all families live together. That is extremely dependent on where you're from.
exactly.
Extremely dependent
Yes.
on where you're from. Some we study in communication. Some are individualistic. Some are collectivistic. In some places in Syria, the grandmother, the grandfather, the mother, the father, the children all live in one apartment, just one flat, like 5 levels. They all live in that single apartment, all of them together. They don't leave. In Egypt, we're like in the middle. So yeah, some of them they do decide to leave the extended family and go live on their own. But some parts in Egypt, they still live next to each other. Like the father is here, the mother is here. The kids all have flats around them. They're all like either walking distance or driving distance away. It's extremely dependent.
No, but this is beautiful if this is what you want. Not
It-
because you're forced to, not because your grandfather said you're gonna live here and you're not going anywhere else.
Some places it is like that.
It is, but are they happy? Okay, they live together
Yes,
from
they are.
outside. No, if this is not what they want and their family told them you have to stay here,
Mhm.
they're not gonna be happy.
Okay, the couple, yeah, okay, sure,
Yeah.
but
I mean, the
The
grandfather is
grandparents
happy.
will-
Yeah,
yeah.
he's happy. But the grandchild who
So-
wants to travel the world isn't. But
so
they're
you're
listening.
okay with disappointing your initial family to
No.
go with your new family.
No, but then
I'm not saying I'm okay with disappointing my initial. I would never do anything that is against my family's will.
Mhm.
This is 100% sure.
Mhm.
But I'm saying that if my family agrees to it, and if I'm okay with the guy, it's our right to choose where we want to live, how we want to live, and the parents should be okay. Because in
Yeah,
Islam,
I'm pretty sure your mom begs to differ greatly.
no, but in Islam, it's not like that. We're not. You know, the way you're supposed to obey your family, we misunderstand it.
Mhm.
You know, even choosing a husband, they don't actually have a say in it. They shouldn't have it. But then we give them because we love them and we care for them. But
do you know the saying "ما عرف عرفا شرط شرطا," which basically translates to what was known as a... Ooh, this is a tough one to translate. As a norm. What is known as a norm is now become a rule, a rule of thumb. So
exactly, and because we respect them, of course we'll ask for their opinion, and we will listen to them. If they say no, we will not marry that person 100%. But Islamically, if they say no to a good person just because he's from a different race, that's actually haram.
I don't know. Okay, I don't know about that. I can't say if it's haram or halal. I'm not the sheikh here.
Let's
But
just not involve halal and haram
yeah,
here
that's a
because
difficult one to say.
We're not that
Creating
knowledgeable.
fasad is a bad thing.
I
I mean, that's
guess.
what the hadith says.
All right. So, anyways, we are going overtime now, and
I
we
talk a
didn't
lot.
even. I don't know if someone did ask a question,
Oh, yeah,
and
let's
I'm
see.
sorry if someone did ask a question and I missed it. We're extremely overtime, and to conclude our show, we've decided that it depends.
I feel like I am so for interracial marriage, but
Still
like,
depends.
it doesn't. Everything we decide or we argue or debate about is very situational.
True. Yeah, I agree with her.
Okay.
100%.
So.
Yeah.
Just like the shows I watch on YouTube, this guy Linus, he always doesn't say yes or no. He always goes like, it depends. So,
Let's just end it with
yeah,
it
we'll
depends.
end with it depends, guys. Depends on the situation. You guys get to decide your life, I guess. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to come back next Friday from 6 to 7 p.m.